She saw her beauty as the price of getting a rich, tall, and successful man as a husband. She divorced her husband and left with their daughter because of the fake promises in her social media's DM. Let's see what happened after she left and was being used by different men. Adana lay awake afterward, listening to the refrigerator hum and her daughter sigh in sleep. She felt used, angry, small, like a billboard admired by traffic but owned by no one. Her beauty still opened doors, but increasingly those doors led to rooms without chairs. The growing emptiness, a crown that feels heavy. The emptiness crept in like a draft and made a home in her chest. It didn't arrive with tears. It arrived with silence. Long, echoing stretches where even her phone seemed bored of her. The same pride that once crowned Adana as a goddess began to hiss. If you are a queen, why is no one building you a kingdom? Each morning she painted her face with practiced grace. Brows clean, lips precise. She chose dresses that moved when she walked and heels that announced her. She stepped into the street like a woman who had already won. But inside, she was hollow, like a finely decorated house with rooms no one lived in. Turning against her daughter, a misplaced blame. Frustration hunts for the softest target. Adana's daughter was always there, warm, trusting, close. When men pulled away after hearing, "I have a child," Adana told herself, "This baby is the reason. If not for her, I'd be married to a richer man by now." When the little girl cried too much, Adana snapped, "Keep quiet. You're the reason my life is like this." When the toddler toddled, knocking over a cup, Adana sighed hard. "I can't even breathe because of you. You've ruined everything." She fed her child. She clothed her. But patience had drained out of her like a punctured bucket. The little girl did not have the words to name bitterness, but she learned its rhythm. She flinched at raised tones. She watched her mother's mouth, not her eyes. Meanwhile, Chaik, a reputation that grew quietly. While Adana's nights lengthened, Chaik's days settled into a bright, ordinary strength. His relationship with Neka deepened with the soft logic of consistency. Work calls brought respect. His name moved through rooms as shorthand for reliable. He didn't know every detail of Adana's spiral, but he sensed the shape of it. Still, he refused to weaponize his knowledge. His priority was constant. Their child. Transfers went out on schedule. Parcels arrived through relatives. He never missed a month. He would not let heartbreak become hunger, the lie that burns. Men pulled back at the word mother. So Adana tried to rearrange the truth. "That's my niece," she told one admirer. "She's my friend's child. I'm just helping for a while," she told another. The lies tasted metallic in her mouth. Pride said, "Protect your value." Shame answered, "At what cost?" Every denial left a small scorch on her heart. She pressed powder over the heat and kept moving. Growing hatred. Poison dripped daily. Anger is easier than grief. Adana watered her anger with thoughts that sounded like survival. "If not for you, I'd be married to a richer man. You ruined my chances." The thoughts made her feel strong for a moment, then emptied her further, like bitter medicine that promised a cure and delivered a bruise. Cruel outbursts, when patience snaps. Some evenings, the little girl cried too long with a fever that wouldn't settle. Adana, exhausted and ashamed of being exhausted, muttered, "You'll kill me one day with your wala." One night, the crying stretched thin and snapped her. Her palm landed sharp on a tiny cheek. The baby's shock, eyes wide, mouth open, was a mirror that showed Adana something she didn't want to see. But instead of guilt, she felt a heavier exhaustion. Resentment sat on her shoulder and refused to move. The child learned to quiet herself by biting gently on her own fingers. Adana learned to avoid mirrors after midnight. The silent contrast. Two kinds of parents. Where Adana saw a stumbling block, Chaik saw a treasure. He sent money with notes to relatives. "Please make sure my daughter is fine. Tell her daddy loves her." When he managed brief visits, he held the child like a vow, kissing the top of her head, whispering, "You are loved, you are wanted, you are mine." The contrast grew louder even when no one spoke of it. A different kind of love. what care actually feels like. Chaik had once believed love was a marathon of apology. Carry the load, take the blame, bend until bending became identity. With Neka, love looked different. When he came home tired, she set food before him without theater. When he spoke about budgets and deadlines, she listened past the headline and offered calm suggestions. She prayed the way a nurse bandages, a gentle, practiced touch that doesn't call attention to itself. He felt his own heart exhale. So this is what love is supposed to feel like. Soft around the edges, strong in the middle. Healing through kindness. Small things, real weight. Neka tucked little notes into his work bag. I believe in you. Go and shine. When he traveled, she blessed the journey and left soup in the freezer. She did not audit his past. She invested in his future. Peace is quiet but obvious. His laughter returned with no effort. His mother remarked, Chaik, you look younger. He did. A happier man. The return of light. Colleagues noticed a glow that wasn't perfume. Family noticed a posture that wasn't pride. Chaik wasn't merely surviving. He was returning to himself, stitched together by gentleness and time, planning ahead, the decision that felt like breathing. One evening, the light fell warm across Neka's face at dinner. Something in Chaik's chest clicked into place. He thought of his daughter and the kind of love he wanted her to witness. He thought of vows that didn't bruise. That night he opened a savings goal labeled ring. He slept with a smile he hadn't worn in years. Chaik's truth. Freedom with a name. Lying in the softened dark, he whispered, Adana leaving wasn't my end. It was my freedom. Love is not meant to break you. It's meant to build you. The future approached, not like a storm, but like morning. The proposal, a garden of light. It was a warm Saturday, city alive, not frantic. Chaik chose a small garden restaurant. Fairy lights stitched through trees, soft music like a well-kept secret, flowers waking up to evening. Family and close friends gathered with the kind of smiles that come from knowing the backstory. Neka thought it was a celebration for his promotion. She wore a simple gown that made grace look easy. Halfway through the evening, Chaik tapped his glass. The room quieted. I once thought love was measured by how much you could give, even if it broke you, he said, eyes steady on hers. But I've learned true love heals what it touches. Neka, you are my peace, my strength, my joy. I don't want another day without you by my side. He knelt, velvet box open, diamond catching the fairy lights. Will you marry me? Yes, she cried, hands trembling, tears bright. Yes, I will. Applause flared. Phones captured a moment that didn't need filters. He slid the ring on. They folded into each other like a prayer answered. The post, a picture with a caption. That night, a cousin posted the shot. Chaik on one knee, Neka's hand over her mouth. Caption. Congratulations to my brother Chaik and his queen, Neka. Love always wins. Ring red heart. The photo traveled. Found friends, co-workers, and eventually, Adana. Adana's regret. A sinking realization. She was scrolling lazily on the couch when the picture appeared. She pinched to zoom. Chaik, smiling in a way she had forgotten he could. Neka calm, sure. The ring, a small sun. Her chest tightened. Memory walked in without knocking. The apologies he gave freely. The nights he carried her burden during pregnancy. The wedding loans he took because she wanted chandeliers. The way he loved her loudly when she treated him softly. And the way she had thrown it away for a man who could not even keep an appointment. Tears gathered. Pride scolded, don't cry. You still deserve more. Another voice, quieter and truer. You lost the one man who loved you without terms. She shut the phone. The image stayed anyway. The competition in her head. Trying to win. For days, the internet congratulated Chaik. Lucky man. A good man finally rewarded. God's timing. The comments were a chorus she couldn't mute. Refusing defeat, Adana turned it into a race. If he can move on, I can do better. I will not be left behind. She reopened old chats. Replied to men she once ignored. Even initiated hello where she would never have bothered. Attention returned in trickles. The flattered came, smiling. They had always wanted a chance with the unreachable Adana. Now she reached, entertaining men she once rejected. The return of the script. At first, it felt like momentum. Compliments arrived on time, dinners got booked, selfies returned to her camera roll. See, she told herself, I can still win. But reality kept its schedule. The moment they learned she had a daughter, tones shifted. A few said the right words. Your daughter is part of you? I'll accept her. But their feet spoke louder, stepping around the child like she was wet paint. Future talk never included a crib. The same old pattern. Flattery bed silence. The cycle repeated with mechanical accuracy. Asterisk promises of stability. Asterisk a few gifts as proof. Asterisk the night that moved too quickly. Asterisk then adrift. Fewer texts, slower replies, convenient ghosts. Within months, 3 different men traced the same path through her life, like ruts worn into a road. Each took something soft and left a little cold behind. The bitter realization, a question with one answer. One evening, after another man became a silence, Adana sat by her sleeping daughter and let the quiet tell the truth. Why does this keep happening? Why can't anyone stay? She whispered. She knew the answer. Men who want futures are not drawn to chaos. Her pride had squandered the one man who loved her enough to carry both her and the child they made. The ones who remained came to collect, not to build. But pride is a stubborn tenant. I just haven't met the right one, it argued. I still deserve more. Outside, the city moved on. Inside, the scoreboard she kept in her mind flickered and went dark. The competition with Chaik had never been real. He wasn't racing. He was healing. She was still chasing shadows. Coda, what the night knows. The night knows who sleeps in peace and who watches screens. It heard a baby breathe steadily, a mother stare at a ceiling, and somewhere else, a man whisper thank you over a ring that finally meant home. Chaik's new joy, a different kind of wedding. A few months after the quiet, luminous proposal, Chaik and Neka married. The ceremony was elegant without being loud. White chairs beneath a soft canopy. Palm fronds nodding in the breeze. A small choir weaving harmonies that felt like balm. There were no show-off banners. No rented illusions. No loans hiding beneath the centerpieces. This time, peace was the decor. Laughter was the soundtrack. Love was visible in the details. The way Neka's father squeezed Chaik's shoulder during the blessing. The way Chaik's hand found Neka's and stayed there. The way family took photos without muttering about who paid for what. Chaik's mother wept. Not the grief tears of a funeral, but the relieved tears of a prayer answered. Finally, she murmured to her sisters. My son has found happiness. Colleagues came in crisp suits. Church members hugged with honest joy. Friends who had seen him crawl out of heartbreak stood taller, as though his restoration added inches to them too. For Chaik, it was more than a wedding. It was proof that love, when it is clean, heals like time and holds like truth. Adana's new hope, a man who seemed different. Around the same time, Adana met a man who stood apart from the parade of pretenders. He was soft-spoken, consistent, and, on the surface, unlike the ones who vanished at the word mother. He didn't flinch when a little girl clung to her leg at the pharmacy. His smile stayed steady. But the steadiness held because Adana told a lie and kept telling it well. From date 1, she rehearsed it with a calm face. My sister traveled abroad for work. I'm just helping with her child for now. The man nodded, impressed by her kindness. You have such a good heart, he said. Relief washed through her like a drug. She leaned into the role, gentle guardian, noble helper. With him, her pride found oxygen again. Here was a chance to catch up, to prove she could rebuild, to match Chaik's new life with one of her own. Playing the game, pictures, posts, and pretend. Weeks turned to months. He remained. They went to small restaurants with warm lighting. They took selfies that looked like tenderness. Their chats grew into talk of where this could go. Adana's confidence returned. Little by little, she pushed curated photos through mutual channels, never directly to Chaik, but close enough that the images would reach him. In her mind, she whispered, I'm winning again. Soon I'll have my own wedding too. But the lie became a leash. In public, the child had to become niece, never daughter. Call me auntie when he's here, Adana instructed in a low, urgent voice. Sometimes the little girl slipped. Children do. Adana hushed her quickly, heart pounding so hard she could hear it. The truth comes out. A word that cracked the mask. It collapsed in a moment that was almost casual. The man stopped by one evening, paper bag of pastries in hand, just as the neighbor mentioned vaccination schedules from the gate. "Ah, thank God your daughter is growing strong," the neighbor said, cheerful and loud. The man turned, paused. "Daughter?" Adana's face drained of color. No, it's not what you think. But truth doesn't require performance. The little girl was not a niece. She was a child with a mother who was pretending not to be one. The disappearance. When trust leaves the room. His demeanor shifted, calm sliding into something sharp. "You lied about your own child," he said, standing. "If this is what you hide, what else will I find out later?" He didn't shout. He didn't make a scene. He simply put the pastries down and walked out. Calls went unanswered. Messages went blue and stayed unreturned. Within days, he was a name she no longer said out loud. To friends, he summarized it with a single sentence. If she can lie about motherhood, the foundation is sand. Adana's breaking point. Tears with edges. That night, Adana's tears came hot and ungoverned. She had thought she was finally close. Close to settling, close to securing the life she'd imagined, close to reclaiming dignity. Instead, the lie she believed would protect her value had ripped open the truth. Her desperation had become her compass. Her daughter, soft and small and loyal, tugged at her gown. "Mummy, don't cry." The words pierced harder than any insult. Adana covered her face. For the first time, she saw the map of her decisions clearly. She had lost Chaik, lost a clean love, and now lost a decent chance because pride had demanded camouflage. The slow passage of time. Months measured in quiet. Recovery was not dramatic. It was slow and gritty. Mornings arrived with a hollow ache. Nights collected silence like rain in a bucket. On her phone, life kept moving. Chaik and Neka on a sunny sidewalk. Friends she once outshone slipping into steady marriages. Quiet businesses, small victories. She scrolled and found herself in the same place. Her daughter crossed 2 years. Walking, pointing, chattering in half-words that bloomed into sentences. Instead of joy, Adana felt a new heaviness. The child's presence became a living reminder of the life she had burned. If not for this child, I'd be married by now. She is the reason men leave. The thought put its feet on her chest every morning and didn't move all day. A mother's anger. Violence where comfort should be. Anger became reflex. If food spilled, a slap answered faster than a cloth. If the child asked at a bad time, shouting arrived before words. If crying stretched past Adana's patience, blows followed until fear shut the sound off. The little girl learned that quiet could be a shield. She tiptoed around her mother's mood like it was a sleeping animal. She learned how to make herself smaller, how to turn laughter into a whisper and joy into a secret. The child's fear, what neighbors notice. Other children raced outside, knees scuffed, laughter loud. Adana's daughter watched from corners, shoulders tight. When someone tried to carry her, she flinched. If a child shouted, she covered her face with both hands. Neighbors began to talk softly on stairwells. That child. She is too quiet. Their eyes followed the little girl with concern that tasted like shame. Adana's loneliness. The sound of an empty phone. The men were gone. The DMs muted. Beauty, still present, now drew pity where it once drew envy. Adana lay on her back at night, staring at the ceiling, routes in her mind circling the same cul-de-sac. Why did everything go wrong? Beside her, the child clutched a worn teddy, victim and companion, heart of the problem and only comfort left. No answer came, only the steady hum of an old fan and the memory of what she had thrown away. The silent contrast. 2 homes, 2 climates. Chaik's life moved in the other direction, toward warmth. His marriage to Neka blossomed. Their prayers were short and sincere. Their little house glowed with the kind of hush that comes from being seen and safe. He didn't know every detail of what his daughter endured, but he sent money faithfully and asked God for a door to open. He kept a drawer with tiny dresses folded and waiting. A new man, a new hope, the decision that darkened her heart. Months later, another man appeared, older, steady, not flashy. He called often, bought small gifts, admired her still. Adana told herself this one must stay. Then she made the cruelest bargain with herself. If I must choose between my daughter and my future, I choose myself. In that sentence, bitterness completed its work. The silent threats, fear as a household rule. When the man visited, Adana hissed to the little girl, "Don't make noise. If you cry, you'll see." The child folded into corners, hands on her doll, trying to become silence. But children are humans, not furniture. A whimper slipped out here, a restless shift there. The man frowned. "Adana, can't you control this child?" The words pierced deeper than they should have. They confirmed a script her pride wrote daily. She is ruining everything. The boiling point, a moment that changed everything. One evening, pap simmered on the stove. The visitor sat in the living room, impatient, sighing. The little girl whined softly on a mat, sickish and restless. "Adana!" the man barked. "This child again? I can't stand this noise." Something dark and terrible clicked inside her. She didn't see a child. She saw an obstacle, a saboteur. She marched to the kitchen, grabbed the pot, came back in long steps, and poured scalding water across a tiny arm. The world narrowed. The girl's eyes flew wide with a pain too big for language. Adana clamped a hand over her mouth to muffle the scream. "Keep quiet," she hissed. "You won't chase this one away." She wrapped the injury, threatened silence, hid the wound. The man left later, grumbling about disturbance. Having never heard the truth holler. Content note: the abuse you're portraying is horrific. You're handling its consequences seriously, which is appropriate for the themes you're exploring. The aftermath: a scar that would not sleep. Skin healed badly, soul worse. The child shrank further into herself, flinching at footfalls, losing laughter entirely. The mark on her arm glowed like a warning to her body. Be smaller. Be silent. Be gone. Adana's heart hardened into a story that excused the unforgivable. This is the price. She must not ruin this for me. Yet fear shadowed her steps. The scar looked back at her like a mirror she could not cover. The discovery: truth in a slipped sleeve. Weeks later, the man visited in daylight. Adana stepped out to buy something. The child played with a doll, sleeve tugged down. She reached. The cloth slipped. The scar flared into view. "What happened to your arm?" the man asked gently. Silence. Then, after a second question, a whisper. "Mummy did it." He stared, breath caught. "Mummy?" The child nodded, tears glassing her eyes. A man's decision. Cowardice or clarity. When Adana returned, smiling like a woman living an ordinary day, he couldn't meet her gaze. He didn't confront. He simply disappeared, first in spirit, then in schedule, then in phone logs. To friends he said, "If she can pour hot water on her child, I want no part in whatever else she can do." The truth had found an ear, and exits are faster when truth leads them. Chaik learns the truth. A father's breaking. Whispers travel. Concern grew feet. The story reached Chaik, who tried not to believe it and then could not afford not to. He arranged a visit. He rolled up a tiny sleeve and found the scar no rumor could have invented. Softly, "My princess, who did this?" Tiny voice, "Mummy did it." Grief and rage rose together and did not cancel each other out. He pulled his daughter close. "Never again," he vowed, tears running freely. "Never again." Taking her away. Steel in the voice. That day, he packed small clothes into a small bag, lifted the small body, and headed for the door. Adana shouted, "You can't take her. She's my child." Chaik turned, voice like iron cooling. "She may have come through you, but you do not deserve her." No mother who burns her child has the right to that word. Neighbors lined the corridor, silent witnesses who had seen enough to choose a side. None defended Adana. Adana's lowest point. Hands that tell on themselves. When the door shut, silence struck like a blow. Adana slid to the floor. The men were gone. The child was gone. Beauty sat uselessly on her face like a crown on a toppled statue. She stared at her hands. The same hands that once flashed rings, accepted gifts, rehearsed lies. Now they were evidence. I have lost everything, she whispered into the empty room. Even my own blood. This time the bottom had no trapdoor. A year of emptiness, reputation and remorse. The year that followed wore gray. Men kept their distance. Whispers did their work. Even flings, those swift illusions, stopped knocking. On the rare occasions she saw her daughter through mutual contacts or online, the child's difference was blinding. Brighter, softer, laughing fully in Chaik's care. The sight landed like a verdict. So it was me. I was the darkness in her life. Adana's beauty remained, but its currency collapsed. Pity replaced envy. Curiosity replaced admiration. The breaking of pride. Words she never thought she'd say. One evening, she sat on the edge of her bed and let a truth out, quiet and raw. I was foolish. I was blind. I thought beauty would buy me everything. Her walls didn't answer. Dreams recalibrated. No more tall checklists. No more gold-tinted fantasies. She didn't long for a prince, only for a person who would stay. Desperation for a man. When choice becomes hunger. By the turn of the year, desperation wore her like perfume. I don't care if he's rich. I don't care if he's tall. I don't care if he has a car. Let him stay. She texted men she used to ignore, smiled at ones she once mocked, allowed conversations that would have bored her before. Availability replaced standards. Loneliness replaced taste. Even she knew this wasn't love. It was survival with lipstick. Meeting another man. The offer she never imagined accepting. At last, a man stayed long enough to paint a picture. Older. Not as handsome as memory made Chaik. Ordinary in the way stability often is. He called often, bought small things, told her she was still beautiful. Then the corner turned, he was married. I cannot leave my wife, he said over dinner, voice practical. But I want you in my life. I can take care of you, but it will have to be as my second wife. Think about it. The words sat between them, heavy as stone. A heavy night, accounting with herself. That night, Adana lay flat and let the past unroll. The rich men who used poetry as bait. Kelvin with his rented gloss and sudden silence. The decent man she'd lied to until truth chased him away. Chaik, faithful, steady, now happy. Raising the daughter who glowed brighter without her. I once swore I'd only marry a tall, rich man who would worship my beauty, she whispered. Now a man offers me the place of second wife. Shame warmed her face like fever. This is not what I planned for my life, she said to the ceiling. Maybe this is what life has planned for me. The room did not answer. Only time would. And time, unlike pride, does not flatter, only reveals. The breaking of pride. A night with no excuses. For the first time in her life, Adana's pride didn't argue back. It didn't offer a clever sentence, a beautiful distraction, or a righteous defense. It simply lay there, broken like a mirror she had kicked one too many times. This wasn't the polite, performative humility she wore when it suited her. Smiles in public, soft words with a hard heart. This was the kind that arrives when loss has emptied the room and turned off the lights. It weighed on her shoulders, pressed against her lungs. It asked for nothing and offered only truth. She sat by the window with the curtain half drawn, watching the streetlights blur on the wet road. Somewhere a generator coughed. A radio murmured a gospel chorus 2 houses away. She pressed her forehead to the glass and saw her reflection there. Older, thinner, beautiful still but dimmed by something that cosmetics couldn't lift. Her mind wandered to her daughter. Bright now, laughing in photos, small teeth flashing like pearls. To Chaik. Steady and at peace, a husband who had learned to smile with his whole face again. She remembered the home she had once had. Small prayers before bed, bottles clinking on a drying rack, a man who held the night for her when she was afraid. She had traded all of it for a crown that cut her forehead. "If I had been humble before," she whispered, voice cracking, "my life wouldn't be here." Tears slipped down her cheeks and kept coming, uninvited, relentless. She didn't wipe them. She let them fall, tasting salt and regret in equal measure. But when the crying slowed, the emptiness returned. Vast, echoing, hungry. Silence, once a luxury, had become a cruelty. She could bear the truth tonight. She could not bear waking up to the same loneliness tomorrow. The decision, the call that bent her neck. Morning arrived without mercy. The room smelled faintly of last night's rain and cold tea. Adana sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her phone. Names in her contact list looked like doors she had already tried and found locked. One name glowed with possibility. Not joy, not dignity, but the promise of not being alone. Her thumb hovered. She inhaled, exhaled, and pressed the call button. It rang just long enough to let doubt whisper, then clicked alive. "Hello." His voice was warm in the way practiced warmth often is. She steadied her tone. "Good morning. Good morning. Have you thought about what I said?" There it was, the sentence that would take her somewhere she had once sworn she'd never go. The words were heavy, like stones she had to push uphill with her tongue. "I've thought about it," she said, and felt something in her chest tighten. "I'll agree." A pause. Her reflection in the wardrobe mirror watched her speak. "I'll marry you, even as your second wife." Silence hummed on the line, not shocked, not offended, just considering terms. "Are you sure?" he asked, practical as always. She swallowed. Bitter rose like bile. "I'm sure." When the call ended, the room did not congratulate her. The curtains did not clap. The air felt unchanged and yet heavier. She set the phone down as if it might burn her palm and folded her hands in her lap. "At least I won't be alone," she told herself, assembling the careful logic of surrender. "At least I'll have someone to call husband, even if I share him. At least there will be footsteps in the corridor, a voice in the next room, a body beside me when night stretches too long." She stood, walked to the mirror, and met her own eyes. They were honest today in a way they had not been for years. "This is the price," she whispered. Not in triumph, not in defeat, but in a strange, sober acceptance. "And I will pay it." Outside, the street woke fully. Horns, sellers, schoolchildren with bright backpacks. Life went on. Inside, Adana folded her pride into something small and put it away like a delicate dress that no longer fit. She wasn't proud of her choice. She wasn't even sure she would survive it. But the silence had carved hollows in her that she could no longer bear. For now, she chose company over a crown. For now, she chose a door that was open, even if it led to a smaller room. For now, she chose not to be alone. Thanks for watching. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories.